My dear followers, subscribers and students, it's always a great pleasure to spend some time with you, revealing more of the marvelous techniques taught in the Scoring Tools Masterclass. First, I must apologize for the delay in releasing the next installment of the acclaimed series, Taking Our Strings to the Next Level. But that is for a good reason. Since the release of the Sample Modeling Strings 1.0, many users have been asking for a more aggressive attack at the highest velocities. This time, I've been working closely with the sample modeling team to improve the short articulations. Upon my suggestion, they implemented the patches with an extra layer that provides sharpness and scratchiness to the attacks. And in my opinion, they've nailed it. Now it's time to show you how to get the best out of this newly released update. Some users might struggle with certain libraries because they do not explore them deeply. This may be a valid method for composing if you are in a hurry and not overly concerned about honing your skills with the current project. However, the philosophy that I teach in the Scoring Tools Masterclass is quite different. I highly value the development of your mind, which is completely independent from the arsenal of plugins. Some composers prefer to shape their ideas based on the libraries they have, while others, like me, prefer to shape their libraries based on the ideas they have. I'm gonna tell you once again. Some composers prefer to shape their ideas based on the libraries they have, while others prefer to shape their libraries based on the ideas they have. Sample modeling virtual instruments may not provide instant gratification out of the box, but they may perfectly align with the ideas that you have in your mind. To master an instrument with so many controllable variables, we need to spend some time testing and exploring the possibilities. What I am going to teach you is more than just a sample modeling tutorial. It is a prime example of exploring a malleable VST like sample modeling. Since today's topic is short articulations, let's conduct some tests with the newly updated string that introduces an additional layer of forceful attacks. I am going to perform a series of short repetitions. From now on, we will explore all the different ways to program the attacks. This includes all combinations of CCs that impact the attack of the notes. They are CC1, Dynamics. To conform with my template, I have replaced the default CC11 for CC1. CC25, Velocity to Dynamics. The default is 127. Which means controlled by velocity only. CC26, attack time, the default is 64. CC38, attack type, and CC28, attack detuning. Out of these 5 parameters, the most important are CC1, which controls dynamics, and CC38, which controls the attack type. For the sake of simplicity, we are initially going to concentrate on exploring these 2 CCs only, along with velocities, of course. By opening up the MIDI region, I will go directly to the note velocities and I will adjust the velocities from lowest to highest. Since our goal is to get the aggressive attack, I will push CC1 to the highest. Now, what are all the possible combinations with CC38? At 64, CC38 renders normal attack that are mostly used for long notes. By increasing CC38, you gradually get a spiccato attack. And by decreasing it, you gradually get a Marcato attack. So the combinations are low, middle, and high velocity with spiccato, low, middle, and high velocity with Marcato. Now let's play CC38 at 64. Now, pushing it down to 0, we get a Marcato attack. And now, to 127, we get a spiccato attack. Obviously, the most aggressive attacks are obtained by a combination of high or low CC38, high velocities, and high dynamics. But don't fall into the trap of always programming every parameters to the highest, especially CC1 dynamics. Every piece of music that has a predominance of short articulations must have accents because they provide drive and expressiveness to the rhythm, which are important aspects for the realism of your mockup. If you are always using the highest velocities and dynamics, you eliminate the possibility of having accents. Let me illustrate this with another quick experiment. I will leave it on its spiccato, and let's have a listen again. And what happens if I increase the dynamics along with the velocities? By doing something like this. As you can hear, the last note sounds slightly more aggressive than the previous programming. I hope you have realized that. This is due to the aspect that is often overlooked by modern composers, which is contrast. By decreasing velocity and dynamic at the beginning, as a result, the last few notes sound slightly more aggressive. I've extensively covered all aspects of contrast in the full course Scoring Tools Masterclass, which works wonders for your music. For this free tutorial, I will concentrate only on what's important for the subject. Let's play it again. Everything to the highest. And now, CC1 dynamics along with increasing velocities. Okay, so far so good. But there's more. Now let's see how these experiments work in a real piece of music. And the chosen one is Romanian Dances by Bela Bartok. Starting on bar 39 of violins, we have the main melody of Marunțel. Marunțel. Sorry, Romanians, if I'm not sounding right. I try my best. Here is the melody with the accompaniment. Now let's solo the violins. And as you can see, all accents are programmed with the velocity 127. Here, 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 here. So the melody goes like this. Na 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 na. All other notes are programmed to high velocities, but only the accents go to 127. CC38 is set to 0, which renders the Marcato attack, and CC1 is programmed according to the accents. Again. Now let's go a little deeper. I will push CC1 and velocities all the way to 127. Let's have a listen. As you can hear, pushing everything to the highest made the phrase sound dull because it lost the support of the downbeats and accentuations. Again. Everything so equal. Now going back to the original. Sounds better and more natural. How about what's happening in the low strings? I will open up basses, cellos, violas all together. Let's listen. These blue MIDI notes represent the polymode key switch, allowing you to play multiple notes at the same time. Moving on to the actual notes, here, contrary to the previous statement about the melody on the first and second violins, here all notes are programmed at the same high level. In this scenario, the accompaniment acts as a support for the main melody and rhythm, with all the notes accented. The dynamics controlled by CC1 go very high, but never reach the peak. This contour is typically used for marcatos. Such programming is similar for brass and woodwinds. For more information on bowing versus MIDI programming, watch this video here, How to Simulate Realistic String Lines. It's another great tutorial from the Scoring Tools Masterclass. That was the first example. Later in the piece, we encountered the main melody again for the first violins, but the programming differs slightly from the previous section. In this case, all accents are on the bow stroke attacks, while the remaining notes have lower velocities. Bow stroke attacks here, and the remaining notes, lower velocities. In sample modeling strings, high velocities result in a more defined legato transition, while low velocities lead to a more smeared effect. Given the fast pace of the piece, it's common to have inconsistency among players, resulting in a blurry effect. Let's have a listen to the original programming. Let's assume that I've set all velocities to the highest level. How does it sound? Not a big difference. Now let's gradually lower the legato velocities. Pretty undefined. Let's go a little bit lower. Now the velocities are so low that the legatos don't have time to sound. Going back. In a nutshell, when you want to simulate rhythmic passages with strong bow strokes, set the attacks of the phrases and bow changes to high velocities and the legatos to middle or low velocities. One of the ideas sometimes is to set one ensemble to the highest velocities and the second ensemble, let's say chamber strings, to middle or even low velocities. But this is a different story that I may cover in another tutorial. CC28 is responsible for controlling the attack detuning. It's normal to have a certain degree of detuning during the attack, especially on double F. When CC28 is used wisely, it results in a more realistic mock-up. By default, CC28 is 10, which I consider low for a demanding piece like Romanian dances. In other words, the harder the passage is to play, the more you should apply attack detuning. It requires a certain knowledge of acoustic instruments to best judge the level of difficulty. On the first violins, the attack detuning is initially set to 29 instead of 10. Ahead on bar 25, here, it goes down to 16. As the violins are not playing the main melody anymore, but instead are playing repeated notes, CC28 goes down to 16 because repeated notes are a little easier to play. Going back to the Marcatos on Marunzel, CC28 goes up to 30 and 37 on bar 56 as the melody gets more demanding. In the final part, I've raised it up to 57 and 67. Here's the end of the music, by the way. I've raised it, and can you guess why? On strings, the higher you play, the narrower the spaces between pitches, making it more difficult to play in tune. Going to violins too, it follows the same procedure. As there are repeated notes here, it's down to 20. When it goes to the melody, to the main melody of Marunzel, it goes to 50 and down to 28 here. And in the final part, again, I increase to 61. The same goes to the violas. They are constantly at 28. And I cared about changing it only in the final part. Now, cellos, CC28. 15 repeated notes. Goes a little higher because here's the main melody. Let's have a listen. And finally, double basses. CC28. 14. Only at the final part of the piece, it goes up to 39. Alright folks, I hope you've enjoyed this last chapter of the series Taking Our Strings to the Next Level. If you have any question, feel free to leave me a message in the comments down below. See you!